The Jacob Media Sports Network, in partnership with 97.3 ESPN, brings you the Mays and Eytan Show.
Middays with Harry Mays and Eytan Shander.
Now, it's the Midday Show with Harry Mays and Eytan Shander on 97.3 ESPN Radio.
It's been the least anticipated draft night that we've had in, 10 years maybe?
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously.
Are you muted? What's going on?
No. Oh, I'm fine.
No, see, what's going on here?
I don't know. I don't hear myself.
I hear you.
Bill said that I was way hot, so I turned it down. Now I'm low.
Now I got you.
Okay.
That's what happens when you turn into an engineer.
No, I didn't touch that
you
button.
Didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn.
You told me to never touch that dial, so I don't. I touched this one.
Oh, no.
Which was the return from the station.
Right, all you did was turn Gil down.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to hear him.
Okay, so you did it on purpose.
Yes.
I got it. All right. I didn't give you enough credit. I'm sorry. So we are at the beautiful Dunphy Ford here, hanging out 7700 North Frankfort Avenue, just a couple of blocks from the historic Frankfort and Cottman intersection. We're here each and every Thursday. It's our home on Thursday, noon to 2. DunphyFord.com. You can check out all the great vehicles. Stop in, hang out with us as well. Bunch of things going on. There's always something popping in Mayfair. So even if you just come in and hang out with us and see all the great cars, you'll know that there's something that you'll be in tune with on the wall, or some event or festival or Grand Prix.
The sidewalks are popping this morning.
It always
I've noticed some nice sights.
Oh, is that right?
Already this morning.
Well,
as the weather gets more humid and hot.
We've strategically put you on this wall here,
right,
which is wide open.
You need me on that wall.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where it's wall-to-ceiling window, and you can look out and be distracted as much as you want. But this has been the least anticipated draft for me in a long time.
Well, I mean,
what are they going to go draft Landry Shamet again?
No, I don't know. I mean, I always get into the drafts, no matter what sport it is, really. Just because you're going to get the opportunity to get some new, fresh blood on your roster, and you hope if in the Sixers case, that you are drafting down in these numbers, because that means you're a good team. Okay?
Well, yes, yeah.
So I mean, is it anticipated? Yeah, of course it's more anticipated if you're up in the lottery and you think you're going to get one of the top 2 or 3 players that get all the press and the buzz and the hype.
You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
All right.
I get that, but still, I'm excited about tonight because there's a couple players lower in this first round that I think could be a nice added dimension to a Sixers bench, which they are going to need to round out. As you have, 3-4 guys making all the money, you got to get a bunch of guys, and you got to hit on these draft picks. That's why I'm so interested in it, to see if they can finally get 2 guys. And I'm not asking, they have 4 picks. They have the 24th, the 33rd, the 34th, and the 42nd. Okay, they might stash a guy in Europe with the 42nd pick for all I know. They might trade it away. They might trade it for cash. Who knows? But if they can get one, they got to get one. If they could get 2 guys that could contribute, this would be a boffo draft.
Yeah, but you're not going to get a guy right away, nor should you expect a guy right away to step in and contribute on a championship team. And that's where we're at. That's the point that you're making right now, is that Golden State, San Antonio, Houston, they're not drafting guys in the back end of the round to step in right away and be an impact player.
Not an impact player. I mean, we wouldn't say impact.
No, but I mean,
feel
like
a guy that can contribute.
Yeah, okay, but there's so many bigger issues that the Sixers team needs to deal with before I can look. It's not like years past where the biggest issue was securing Ben Simmons, securing Joel Embiid, securing a top pick, and then making sure that your team is better exponentially because of that. I feel like, to your point, this is a good thing that we're past this.
Exactly. That's
yeah, but I feel like we haven't, not you and I alone, I'm just saying in general, like there hasn't been much talk outside of what Nova and Temple and Phil Martelli getting fired. There hasn't really been much talk about looking and scouting deep into the draft like we've had in years past.
Well, I mean, of course, because it's easier to scout these guys that are at the top of the draft, because generally they play on teams that are on every 3 days. Kansas, Kentucky,
or even LSU, where you knew the kid coming out was going to be a top
right.
pick.
He got all the hype from the beginning, and he was already put in as the number 1 draft pick in October when the season started. So it was like ESPN will find a way to get LSU on more times. I mean, the LSU was never a team that was on all that much. If you'd watched the SEC
No, not at all.
network they were on, but when Ben Simmons was there, my God, they were trying like hell to get him on every week.
Absolutely.
You know? So,
absolutely. I agree that there is a sense of star power that the NCAA took full advantage of. I just think at this point right now, I mean, think about what happened with the Mike Conley crossover ending of the show aside, which got some epic reviews, mind you, on Twitter. The back and forth.
Oh, yeah,
that
the
we had
steel
yesterday.
cage match with you and Gil.
Yeah, so here's what
well,
I would,
you won that.
Well,
I mean,
listen, I'm not here to say who wins or loses.
well, I am.
Okay.
You won. Okay?
Part of me thinks I won just because you happen to agree with me.
No,
in this
well,
case.
of course.
I mean, I feel like that's a huge part of the criteria.
Well, it wasn't
that you're
even
using.
just that, though. I mean, you just like
Get off my
you
back,
dropped
Harry!
You dropped the people's elbow on him, not once but twice.
Well, I love Gil. You know that. We listen to him. We stream him on the app up here. As soon as we're done with the show, I'll be driving down where I'm going. You'll go, and we'll be listening in the car.
Well,
But
that's because
he
we're
was
listening.
wrong.
We're listening for stuff that we can rag on him about the next day.
Seriously.
I mean, it's
I was entertained.
It's self-serving content.
Absolutely. Well, it's
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Everything I do is self-serving.
Yeah, but you wouldn't do it if you didn't enjoy either.
Exactly.
So what I would say, though, is look at what happened with this Mike Conley trade.
Yeah.
You've got 12 teams right now in the NBA. 12 teams, 7 in the West, 5 in the East, that you can legit say, if not 5, then 4 in the East for sure, that you can legit say can win the NBA championship this year. Let's look at this.
All right.
You've
Let me bust out the standings here.
You've
Just a
got.
sec.
I'll give you the 12 teams right here, or at least the 11 teams right now. Let's start in the West, okay?
Oh, you want to start in the West?
I want to start in the West. I'll save the Sixers for the end.
Okay.
Now
how many did you say are in the West?
7. The Jazz have just inserted themselves into this conversation. They won 50 games last year and got significantly better by swapping out the poorest of poor man's Simmons and Ricky Rubio, who couldn't shoot. I don't know if you caught that. They were lagging off of Rubio in the playoffs like they were lagging off Ben Simmons.
Right.
So they've drastically, or vastly, I should say, improved.
With Conley.
Yes,
Yeah.
that position.
Okay.
So now they're in the conversation.
Well, they were 7 games back of the Warriors last year.
Correct. And the whole thing is predicated on the Warriors now being part of this group as well, but no longer being ahead of the pack, all right?
No, they're like in the middle of the pack, wouldn't you
Exactly,
say?
but they're part of this 7.
Well, they are part of the 7.
It used to be the Warriors and then like 4 or 5 other teams.
Right.
Now it's like everybody involved. So you've got Utah. You've got Denver, who was the 2nd seed last year. And no point of their offseason have gotten any worse.
Yeah.
They haven't lost any key component, in fact, so they should be back.
And you think that some of those young players will get better.
Murray, exactly right. Jokic. These guys, exactly right, will grow. Golden State, we mentioned them. Listen, it's not a knock on them. It's the reality that them getting held back with the injuries just puts them with the rest of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now both L.A. teams. The Clippers were in the playoffs last year. Here's the thing.
Yeah, they were the 8th seed.
If they get, because they're going to spend money, but if they get Kawhi Leonard, then all bets are off. They're definitely up there. But right now, even with the assumption that they're going to spend money that they have, they were in the playoffs in a crazy run last year.
I would say that they're not a team that could win the NBA to go to the title unless they get Kawhi.
Okay.
All right, let's be honest on that. They're still a playoff team, but they're not a team that can go to the finals unless they get Kawhi Leonard.
But they're going to max somebody out right now.
Okay.
And I think when you look at the slot that they have available to spend money, let's see. The idea is that they were an 8 seed without spending money, and that they've kept core players that you expect to get better. So at the very least, they're kind of there. All right. Now you also have the Lakers, who have now we know are going to spend more money on top of Anthony Davis,
right?
And Houston as well.
So that's 5,
right? So Portland is 6.
Yeah.
And
you're going to put the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Spurs? Which one?
No, Denver. I
already counted Denver.
Who did we forget here?
Golden State, Denver, Houston, Utah, and the Clippers were your 5.
Lakers were 6. Portland 7.
I already had them.
Are you sure about all this?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
See,
it took 9 minutes for this thing to go completely off. Let's start. Utah,
bottom line is, though,
Denver.
not all those teams can get to the finals.
Absolutely they can.
Not all.
The only team that I think here's the thing. You've got the Clippers, you've got the Lakers, you've got the Jazz, you've got the Nuggets, you've got Houston, okay? You've got Portland and Golden State. That's 7.
Okay.
That's 7.
All right.
Now, of those teams, the only one that I think you have any wiggle room as it stands right now is the Clippers. But are you telling me that if any one of those teams, with what we've seen, went on, like if Golden State if Golden State won down to Utah, who got Mike Conley healthy, that won 50 games last year in the West as the 5 seed, you're telling me that you would be really shocked? The point of it, Harry, is that it's wide freaking open.
As a result of Golden State's injuries and the fact that the Lakers are now at least a legit playoff team.
Right.
I'm not buying that they're the odds-on favorite.
It doesn't have to be. No. Somebody's always going to be the default odds on.
I don't believe in them. I think that's.
I don't think there is any odds-on favorite. Houston would be the only team that I would really put some credence in because they're going to get.
Well, the Lakers
back.
are the favorites.
I know, but I don't really think that from a betting standpoint they are. Then you go to the East.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I'm not going to even put Boston in this conversation.
Well, it's the Pacers, the Sixers, the Raptors, and the Bucks.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's 4.
Right.
Now, we don't know what Boston does with money because when Al Horford and Kyrie leave, you're going to have a max slot available or at least near max slot available to spend on money. So I don't know what they do, but here's the thing.
They go get Kemba Walker.
Here's the thing.
Take Kyrie's spot.
Brooklyn is not going to be a contender to win it, but they'll probably take away a little bit from Boston. So best case scenario for me, I gave you 12 teams. Worst case scenario, we have 10 teams. 10 teams, okay? 4 in the East, 6 in the West. The last time it's been this wide open was 98-99, that strike-shortened season, when the Spurs beat the 8th-seeded Knicks.
Oh, the
That's
Knicks.
right.
Okay, yeah.
Other than that, because remember, that was the year that Duncan came in. Nobody really had – you had the Jazz, you had the Rockets, you had the Lakers. Harry, I don't remember a league that has been so top-heavy, so wide open, and anticipated like this coming season. And it all has to do with, what, 2 guys going down and
It all
getting
has
hurt?
to do with Golden State. Yeah, and the injuries. It's unbelievable. Because if those guys were healthy, you'd be thinking – the only thing you'd be thinking is KD going to leave this year for the Knicks or the Nets? But other than that, they're bringing everything else back.
So
and
really,
even without
Clay's
KD,
injury.
they'd be favored.
Yes.
Right?
So Clay's injury was really the big thing because you knew that Kevin Durant leaving not only meant that they would be able to replace him with players, but they would be able to reallocate that money.
And what do they do with Cousins? Like, do they reallocate that money towards somebody else? Probably, right? Most likely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Cousins is out because it's going to cost them an arm and a leg. You're not going to get him for that same mid-level exception that you got. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to spend money now on Cousins to retain him before he heads back. And here's the thing. I mean, the way in which, let's be honest, the way in which Cousins played when he came back was way too inconsistent.
He had a couple games where he really gave him good minutes.
But it all comes back to, and we'll take your text, 609-403-0973 today. It all comes back to where your Sixers are and knowing the importance of Jimmy Butler, and then what happens if, in fact, Tobias Harris walks.
Right.
Now, you're going to have to walk me through this. Because how much money do you think Al Horford is going to command on the open market?
I have no idea.
But he just passed
Isn't
up.
Dallas interested in him?
They are.
Yeah.
He just passed up $32 million to come back to Boston.
See, that's the thing. Like, he's
not going to rework a deal in Boston either. He's out.
It appears like he's just going to look for his last big payday.
Correct.
Like, I don't think he's really concerned as to where his destination is as a team that can compete for a championship.
You know what I mean?
I think he's at that point in his career.
Just retire into the sunset.
Yeah, just make as much money as I
Yeah.
possibly can, put up as much stats as I can possibly do. He's had a great career, and see you later.
This isn't David West, who was at the end of his career in Indiana
No.
and then took like a $13 million pay cut.
He's trying to latch on to get a ring.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a guy in Al Horford who I don't see taking a significant pay cut after passing up $32 million, to your point about how old he is. Not that he's decrepit by any means, but he's getting up there. So I'm trying to see the logic here. Yes, I would like Al Horford as a backup center for the Philadelphia 76ers.
That's not happening.
But at what cost? If Tobias Harris walks and that money is gone, we talked about this yesterday about reallocating that money to a couple of players.
I don't think Horford wants to be a backup.
Well, no, but there's a report. Shams was on Sirius NBA saying that there were 4 teams, the Mavs and another team that I forget, and then he had a real big pause and said Philadelphia and Houston. So, of course, people are all going crazy. Like the Sixers are going to be going after Al Horford. And I'm
throwing
thinking,
a ton of money at him.
At what cost?
No.
Would you pay $27 million for a backup center?
No.
That's like paying $20 million for Nick Foles to come back.
No. That's exactly.
Right? I mean, what the hell? It doesn't make – it's fiscally irresponsible at that point.
That makes no
It doesn't
sense.
mean I don't want Al Horford. It doesn't mean that having Al Horford, who has the magic sauce to sprinkle on Embiid and turn him into a regular player.
Well, he has the magic sauce to contain Embiid.
That's what I'm
when
saying,
he battles him.
I would love to have him on the team, but – I'm not paying the guy $28-30 million, and he's not taking an $18 million pay cut to play
That's
here.
where you let teams, that have cap space, like Dallas, whoever else, like the Wizards, any of those teams. Go back to Atlanta. If they can throw you a max contract if they can.
All right. Bobby Marks is going to join us in 15 minutes. But I want to read a text, 609-403-0973, because we have to transition and bring this up before we get to Bobby Marks and go a little heavier on the NBA. Dan from EHT weighs in. He's our first text of the day. Kapler has to be fired. He should be getting thrown out of games and punching coolers in the dugout. Fire it up, or he's going to be fired. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't pin all of this stuff on Gabe Kapler like a lot of people want to. I mean, you got two good efforts, really good efforts out of your starting pitchers yesterday, and you got nothing to show for it. If Scherzer comes in there with a black eye and a broken nose,
we told Bob yesterday from
gem.
Crossing Broad that'd be a big problem if Scherzer could gem
and
us.
he didn't even have to wear a facial mask. He just went out there.
They didn't even have any type of protective measures for the guy. He thought, you know what? I'm going up against this Phillies anemic offense. I could get one by him.
Right, and you got Segura lollygagging out of the box again on a hit that he probably should have gotten to second base, and then you got Harper being
11 pitches,
and then you got being over aggressive. Harper getting thrown out at third.
Well,
so I mean, everything they try to do goes wrong. The bats, they're not hitting enough.
No,
okay,
but they haven't been consistently hitting.
No, I know. I'm just saying the whole month of June. I mean, in the month of June, they're 6-11 since May 31st, and the Braves are 13-5 since that date.
Right, and I feel like the inconsistent hitting itself, though, was dating back to like mid-May, really. End of May. I mean, it just started to rear its ugly head when they were going up against better teams.
Yeah, the only guy that's consistently hitting right now is Kingery.
Correct.
In the lineup.
Correct.
I mean, Harper either strikes out or he walks.
Adam Dunn, man.
Right
told
now.
you. Except
it's unbelievable.
There's no walk. It's no home run. It's a walk now.
But I mean, this guy, this Cole Irvin, can we be done with the Cole Irvin experiment? I mean, he came in and just through batting practice, two big bombs, one to left and one to right field. I'm like, all of a sudden, they're in that game. I think it was 3-1 at the time.
Right.
Next thing you look up, and it's 6-1. You're like, it's over.
No, it was terrible to see that. It was really frustrating. And Pat Neshek gave you 11 pitches. 11 pitches.
Yeah, so he's probably going to be shut down for another week.
Well, he's hurt
after that 11 pitch.
He got hurt.
He got hurt. Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
But,
he's like Neuwirth, the goaltender for the Flyers.
Yeah.
He's like tissue paper, this guy.
Neuwirth would stop 3 amazing shots in the first period.
And then he'd pull his groin.
And then he'd miss the next
month.
month.
He'd tear his groin.
Right. And you're looking around like the Flyers have 5 guys on staff as goalies, and you're looking around like, oh, yeah, Neuwirth. That's right. He's coming back.
Yeah.
Noivy. 609-403.
3 extra base hits in those 2 games. Yeah, 1 home run. It's like unless they're hitting home runs, they're not scoring.
On the text board, Harry, is anyone going to spray some magic sauce on Segura to get his ass going?
Yeah. Well, I think you start to figure this out now. I mean, he's a really good player, okay?
Well, yeah, he's one of the best players.
This is probably why he's been on so many teams, is situations like this where, certain teams are just like, hey, we're not going to deal with this.
Okay, but is this really the crux of their issues, or is this something convenient?
Somebody just brought up Segura.
I'm not.
Think like he's been on 4 or 5 teams, and the guy's good. So why does that happen?
Well, can't you make the same argument about Tobias Harris? Like, this guy's been a bunch of teams too.
Yeah.
What's going on with him?
I wasn't talking about Tobias Harris.
No, but I'm using it as an analogy. Like,
sure.
But maybe we see that and think, all right, is it really about attitude, or is it about value and opportunity? I don't always. I know what you're saying.
Well, the problem is, it's like they're losing now. Like when they were winning, he was the same guy, right?
Didn't matter.
But you didn't. It didn't figure into the wins and losses. That's like when Harper wasn't hitting the beginning of the season, right? I was like, hey, they're winning games.
Yeah.
It's not really affecting them right now. It's affecting them.
Correct, because the lineup itself was benefiting still from Harper's presence in there versus the opposite now, where it's like everybody sucks. 609-403-0973.
Franco went in the tank as soon as April ended. He had a great first month. And,
he didn't even start in either of those doubleheaders.
No.
I mean, think about that. That tells you exactly what they feel about this kid right now. He went from being looked at. It's crazy. The microcosm of where we are to where we were at the start of the season is Maikel Franco. Mm-hmm. It's looking at this kid come out and thinking, oh, my God, we now have the best eighth-hole hitter in baseball with Franco because he's in a great spot and the lineup has improved and Real Muto bumping people down and everything that filled in the blank. That was how we felt about the team. Yes!
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden everything's gone to crap. And we look around, and it's like the Phillies can't even get in. They can't even get into the conversation. Like Franco can't even get into the game. What are they, 4 back?
Was it tied to the same time period when Herrera got busted for the domestic incident?
That what?
That they started to just go down. I know Franco was in the tank way
Franco
before
in the
that.
tank, yeah.
But
I
I'm
want to
saying
say,
as a team.
when was the actual thing that
I got to
popped?
look up the date from that, but I think it's pretty close to the. I'll see.
Because I also think that, remember that West Coast trip, maybe it coincided with
Well,
that
the West Coast trip is what I'm talking about. May 31st is when they went to
and that's
the
what I'm
Dodgers.
saying. It might have coincided. Do you think it was coincidental, or do you think it was just the lack of Herrera on this team?
Well, I mean, it did put him in a bit of a bind, even though he wasn't really playing all that great to begin with. His last game, it looks like, with the Phillies was the 26th of May against Milwaukee.
Okay. So it does coincide.
Because I think they had an off day the next day, which is when he got in trouble, and then they had the Cardinals for 3, and then they went on the road trip.
Yes.
The 31st.
Okay, that was the difference.
So it's right around there.
All right. I think you might be onto something, to be honest with you. You might be onto something. 609-403-0973. Nobody cares when you're winning. Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Exactly.
You overlook all those kind of things.
The only thing people care about when you're winning is Gabe Kapler. It's the only guy that I've seen. Let's think about this. Charlie Manuel didn't really get this level of scrutiny when they were winning.
Not when they were winning. He got it first when he first got here.
Brett Brown, I feel like, gets some of it. Doug Peterson actually more than Brett Brown. Remember year 1 at Doug Peterson? It was almost like any game he won was by accident. And it was like, come on, this guy doesn't even know how to work the blinkers on his car.
That was part of it, the headset thing. Yeah, remember, things like that. And he doubled down on things that we thought were stupid decisions.
Absolutely.
But
he never
had
got
to win.
And the team would get a win. And Monday morning, I remember, right, because I'd be on with Anthony, you'd be with Jason, and it'd be like, half of the conversation, and not just us, but people interacting us, would be like, they barely got up.
They won because of Jim Schwartz and the defense,
exactly right.
or Carson pulled one out of his what.
The first 6 weeks of Carson's or of Doug's rookie year, it was all about Schwartz and a quarterback, and in spite or despite Doug's actions. And I feel like Gabe Kapler is at that point right now where even if they win a baseball game, there will be, and I'm not saying, there'll be people who come down on them. It's the reality of where we are right now, where people will focus on Gabe Kapler and say, you see, he blew that. He blew the shift. He should have bunted. He should have brought in a reliever. My goodness, they beat the Braves 8-0, but why in the hell did he pull Nola after 7?
Right. It's always something.
It is.
Yeah. Now, the Sixers, we're going to talk a lot of Sixers draft today with our guests today, right?
Correct. Now, I have a text beforehand, but go ahead.
No, but I've got the history of the 24th pick in the draft.
Interesting.
The most recent history.
Bobby Marks joins us coming up right now, and then an hour from now, Tom Moore